hang on, let me take that out. Now talk to me.
Do I need to start from the beginning?
Yeah, if you can stop it. No, that's not a touch screen.
Okay, sorry.
We'll just delete this. Use your little pad.
Okay.
Use your little pad to
Oh, I
click
can.
on there and tap. All right, say yes. Yeah, if I have.
Hello. This is Mr. Ralph Jones. Things have certainly changed greatly since we were here. But the last time, oh, and this is, if you're viewing this, you were in my E-period U.S. history class. And I know, this is the class that you say is my favorite class. But all of that aside, when we last met, we were preparing for a test in chapter 27, which was 1952 to 1960. You should be seeing this after or on Monday the 30th. My plan is to send this out by Tuesday the 31st, and then I will send a document with test 27 for you. This test will be several short answer questions. I have 7 questions. I want you to answer 5. And I'm going to talk about some of that material. This is in the form of like extra help in the afternoons. Now, I'm also planning on sending an email to you, probably on Monday the 30th, that if you respond, I'll know you're getting my message, and if you respond, you'll get extra credit on the test. You know, doesn't hurt to have a little extra credit. Now, the very first pages of chapter 27 started talking about the kitchen debate between Nikita Khrushchev and Vice President Richard Nixon. And I want you to look over those pages again. There's only about 3 pages. And consider, something to consider would be, is this kitchen debate some signs that the Cold War was perhaps less intense? Or to use an expression, perhaps there was a slight thaw in the Cold War. We've talked about this in class, but that's not so important as your textbook. I do want you to look at those pages. Oh, and I neglected to tell you that the test I'm going to send you is open textbook and open notes. So you don't have to worry about having a note card. You can use the textbook or notes. I do not want you to use any other sources, but if you quote something directly from the textbook, just put quotation marks around it. I will know where it came from. If it looks like it didn't come from the textbook, that's another issue. But it is an open book text. So, as I was talking about the kitchen debate, you know, how could this be considered as a thaw in the Cold War? What were some points they were talking about? You know, did it seem to be a friendly encounter? Now, something else that we did talk about in class, and is also in your textbook, is why President Eisenhower decided to use the American CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, to overthrow the government in Iran, the government headed by Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. Now, his name is on your list of terms, but his name is also in the textbook. You know, the Eisenhower administration was concerned about possible leftist influence. The Prime Minister of Iran, Mohammad Mossadegh, was nationalizing some oil companies' property. Oil companies were afraid of losing that. Eisenhower thought that could be a sign of gradual communism. So that's why he authorized the CIA to intervene. You know. Another issue, the whole issue of President Eisenhower's nuclear arms. What we sometimes call brinkmanship. You had that term in not a pop quiz, but a reading quiz. Eisenhower wanted to save money in the defense budget. So he is relying on the threat of nuclear bombs dropped by large planes. And that way he could save money on the conventional military establishment. What I would like for you to know, or to be able to do, is to evaluate his policy and whether or not, now this is partially an opinion question, whether or not his policy helped to accelerate the nuclear arms race or helped to ease it. You can argue either way, but you have to back up what you say if you choose that short answer to do. Another short answer topic is about the growth of the suburbs in 1950s America. One thing that would help the growth of the suburbs, of course, was the interstate highway system, which we talked about and is also in the reading. But the growth of the suburbs, there is more material in your textbook, because as people moved out of the cities, what people were not able to move out of the cities, and excuse me, what people were not able to move out of the cities. Well, that would be the poorest people. So the cities basically start becoming areas where poverty will thrive as middle class persons, families will move out to the suburbs. But it has a huge impact on American society. Also, we have talked about the Brown versus Board of Education decision and racial justice in the 1950s. This Brown decision is famous, of course. This is the decision that said that separate educational facilities are inherently unequal and that public schools should desegregate. The wording the Supreme Court used, they should desegregate with all deliberate speed. Now, how did President Eisenhower respond to the Brown decision and other issues of racial justice? We talked about how initially he didn't support that decision at all, and later he called his appointment of Earl Warren to be Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and Earl Warren was the Chief Justice in the Brown decision. Now, the Brown decision, by the way, was a unanimous Supreme Court decision. All 9 justices agreed with the Brown decision. But Eisenhower later, shortly after this, referred to his appointment of Earl Warren as Chief Justice as, quote, biggest downfall mistake I ever made. So Eisenhower was not showing great support of the Brown decision. The Brown decision came out in 1954. I told you in class that some schools, some states, showed their protest of the Brown decision. For example, the state of Virginia closed all public schools for a year. Now, 1957, something we talked about in class and is also in your book, Eisenhower does respond to the Little Rock crisis when 9 black students, just a small number of black students, were going to integrate Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas. That was the situation we talked about, and I want you to be familiar with that. Also, we talked about in class, and it is in your textbook too, is what happened to Emmett Till. The murder of Emmett Till, and I had most of you looked on your devices at pictures of Emmett Till. He was a 14-year-old African-American from Chicago, Illinois, visiting relatives in Money, Mississippi. Most of you saw the pictures of him before, and you saw pictures of him in his coffin. The photographs alone were graphic. Most of you agreed. We talked about it. How could someone do this to a 14-year-old? You know, and we also talked about, I told you what the jury decision in the trial. 2 white men were put on trial for the kidnapping and murder of Emmett Till, and an all-white male Mississippi jury found both men not guilty. This murder of Emmett Till went through the African American community and stimulated a lot of average people, no special leaders, people in every walk of life, African Americans, black Americans who decided this is wrong. we need to stand up for ourselves. And it was a major motivation in the 1950s civil rights movement. Now, also in your textbook, we didn't really talk about this subject as much, but we did, there was a reading quiz question. One factor that accounted for the tremendous growth in the economy and consumerism in 1950s America was the baby boom generation. You had 30 million young babies being born in this period of time, born between 1946 and 1964 are the usual dates for the baby boom generation. This was just one factor. Your textbook talks about some other factors on this growth of consumerism. Now, these are 7 topics. These will be the 7 topics that you will be receiving. You do not have to write on all 7. I do want you to type your responses. As I said before, it's open notes, open textbook. After you type your answers into a Word document, and you can email them to me. And I'll have the date, the exact time. I think Wednesday, the 1st of April. I know, April Fool's Day. This is not an April Fool's joke, though. But this is what we're looking like at this point. I want to wish all of you well, and bonne chance. Good luck. Thank you. I meant to take a look at